Okay, so we're at 6 o'clock and we will open the public board meeting. April 13th, 2022. Let's start by acknowledging that we are privileged to meet on the unceded and ancestral territories of the Squamish and Musqueam nations. I guess I'll ask if we have any amendments to the agenda. Good to go. Good to go? Okay, so just looking for a motion to the agenda.
That the agenda of this meeting be approved.
Pardon?
It's an amendment.
It is an amended agenda?
Policy motions.
Okay, there we go. So
That the amended agenda of this meeting be approved.
thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ian. And all in favor? And carry. So we have a set of minutes or a couple sets there. Anyone's prepared to make those?
I can go ahead that the minutes of the board meeting held on March the 9th, 2022 is be adopted.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? It's everyone, so that's good.
That the summary minutes of the in-camera. Just a second, I just got that message saying you're on mute. And it blocked the motion. That the summary minutes of the in-camera board meeting held on March 9th, 2022 be adopted.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Ian. And all in favor? That is carried. So that brings us to our announcements. I just have one cute little story I wanted to share with you. I ran into a parent and her little girl, and I was talking to her little girl. She goes to Myrtle Phillip, and she had said she talked to Jeff Maynard about this, and she wants snow days to be declared a day off. So I said, well, you know what, you can put that forward. That's your responsibility as a citizen. I'm not sure how far it'll go.
Was it defined how many flakes would have to fall?
She did not. I think she's about 7. So.
Okay. Not quite there yet.
No.
All right.
Anyway, I just wanted to share that.
That is very
Sure.
sweet.
So any trustee remarks?
I do, Rebecca, if I can.
Go ahead, Celeste.
Yeah, I just wanted to report that I was able to attend part of the SD48 Inclusion Committee meeting that was held this past Monday. And I'd just like to acknowledge that important discussions are being held at these meetings and thank both the parents and staff that are engaging in them. I was also able to attend the Howe Sound Women's Center Sexual Assault Response Committee meeting held on Tuesday. Partners from across the Sea to Sky region from within the criminal justice system, the healthcare system, and the school system met to discuss sexual assault prevention and response efforts along the corridor, including resources for youth. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month in this region. You can follow the Howe Sound Women's Center Society on social media to stay up to date on what is happening to raise awareness this month. And they and other partners are doing important work to serve vulnerable populations in our communities.
That's great, Celeste. Thank you. Are there any other trustee remarks? Okay. See nothing, then we'll move on to the superintendent's remarks.
Great,
I
thank you.
understand you have a bunch this time.
I do. I first want to start out by saying what a thrill it is to be at Pemberton Secondary School for our in-person meeting. Of course, we haven't been here for a while because of COVID, so it's lovely to be here in this beautiful neck of the woods. And I want to welcome everyone back from spring break, and now, of course, wish everyone a very happy Easter long weekend in a few days. And just a comment about COVID, I just wanted to mention that while many folks are absolutely thrilled that COVID-19 restrictions, such as the mask mandates and gathering limits, have been lifted, I just ask everyone to please continue to practice good hygiene, do your daily health check, and respect everyone's choice to continue to wear a mask, because there is still a lot of anxiety and fear out there, and folks are caring for loved ones who may have health concerns at home. So just a reminder to be respectful of one another's choices, and really it's all about we're all in this together, basically. And on that note, I also would love to welcome the newest member of our district team, and that's Miss Kim Charda. to our district as Director of Instruction, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Kim's been making her way through the district, visiting schools and settling into her new role. So again, welcome.
Thank you, Chris.
And now for some exciting news about what's been going on in the district. And since we're in the north, we're going to stick, thank you, with some, oh, did I mispronounce? I'm sorry. It's, didn't I say Shad?
The H is in an
Sadra.
awkward place in my name.
Sadra.
I'll explain that one day.
So it's just
Did I
sad.
say Shadra? Oh, I knew that. I'm so
Sadra.
sorry. Sadra. Gosh, you can practice that. Thank you so much. Thanks for the correction. No, it's important to get names right, and I'll endeavor to do so from now on. Oh my goodness, now I have to name some teachers' last names. Hopefully I get that right as well. I wanted to just draw your attention to some great things happening in the district, and since we're in the north, we're gonna stick with Whistler Up. At Spring Creek Elementary School, I'm proud to announce that a very collaborative group of grade 3 and 4 students from Miss Penny and Miss Stratton's class, who call themselves the Milkshake Mountains, were awarded first place in the Reading Link Challenge put on by the Whistler Public Library. They put their reading comprehension and collaboration skills to the test and came out on top. So congratulations to them and thank you to their teachers for all their support. I'd also like to congratulate the Pemberton Secondary Senior Boys Basketball team for their incredible efforts and teamwork this year. As a growing school, they moved up a tier in the league. That means they were facing much larger schools, and they had one goal this year to make the provincials, and they did. So well done, gentlemen. And at PSS as well, the arts are also alive and well. The drama club production of The Wedding Singers was a hit last month. I understand students did a phenomenal job portraying the characters from the hit movie. And I believe that the principal, Ms. Aldcroft, would like to declare that she believes they were funnier than Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. So, nicely done. And finally, I'd just like to remind folks that the public engagement process regarding the new Indigenous focused grad requirement that will be coming into place for the 2023-2024 school year continues through to April 22nd. So ending soon. If you haven't already, please go to our website where you will find a link right at the top of news and events to the survey. And we encourage and invite all students, families, staff, rights holders, and community partners to visit the site and share your thoughts. Thank you very much.
Well, that's great, thank you. Anybody have any questions or comments for Chris? You did a great job. So,
Pronunciation.
well,
Apologies again.
so we'll move on to the Secretary Treasurer's remarks. Danielle?
A few things. So in relation to questions of clarification from the public, we just request that any questions be submitted to the board at sd48.bc.ca. And the board will attempt to answer all questions during the conclusion of today's board meeting. We'll do our best to respond to questions this evening as they come up. And in the event that the question is complicated, we may need more time to research it, and we'll follow up with the questionnaire following the board meeting. And I have something very exciting to present. We're excited to present a signed letter of intent between Lil Wat Nation and School District 48 to the public. This letter can be found today under the agenda under information items. And the letter is something we've been working towards for a long time. It confirms the intentions of Lil Wat Nation and the school district to engage in a potential transfer of the Coast Mountain outdoor school land, So Chief Nelson recently presented at our February board meeting on this topic on potentially using these lands as a healing center in the future. The Sea to Sky School District fully supports Lil Wat Nation's interest in transferring the CMOS lands to them, and we look forward to working together on this project. It's a huge endeavor, and this is a big step towards reconciliation with our Indigenous partners.
Awesome. I've already been hearing chatter in the community a little lot about the lands and how pleased everyone is, and it's bringing up a lot of stories too for all of those of us who went to the outdoor school for different events and camping and dancing and stuff. So
That's fun.
yeah. Any questions or comments for Danielle? Nope. Okay, then that moves us to receiving delegations, of which we don't have any. And then we have a student staff presentation. So this is Katrina Doherty with the teacher program.
Hi, thanks for having me tonight. This year, I don't have a slide deck or anything, and I think that presentation should maybe be in air quotes, because this is just going to be a casual chat with Katrina. I have a new job this year, and it's the coordinator in charge of new teacher mentorship. And so when I first started, I had a personal mission statement, and that was to build connections, community, and confidence in a safe collaborative environment while supporting growth in teaching and learning in SD48. So that's how I started. That's how I attacked it. That's how I went in. The new hires, they're not necessarily all new to our profession, but they're new to our district. The new hires, the senior secondary was about 20. And the elementary group that we've been working with was much smaller. Mostly it was a senior secondary hires this year. But what we decided to do was expand that group to include hires from last year who were working in the K-9 program. And that numbered about 16. So that was sort of the group that that qualified under the umbrella of new teachers. There was some driving purposes in the district deciding that this was important. And some of those were to ensure that people felt supported, especially during the very, very complex first years of teaching. I don't know that it necessarily gets easier, but there's a painful hardness in the complexity of your first few years, mostly because you don't have muscle memory. You don't have those experiential pieces to fall back on that you gain and gather as you've been doing this for a number of years. So the support in the first years where everything is new and you actually don't know what the abbreviations mean or where they keep the art paper or if you're supposed to do this or that, just help support those complex years. We wanted to connect people with each other as a new cohort coming through and maintaining their career here at SD48. We wanted to connect those people with others in SD48 who can then become their go-tos for different areas of learning. So we wanted them to be able to know that there's a vast network of people who are there to help support them, and each with their own thing, their own spice to throw at it, that their own area of passion. And you always know who the go-to person is for specific things in your school. We wanted to support the continued understanding and the use, and maybe even perhaps the redevelopment or the development of the strategic ed plan. So when you come here, as opposed to going anywhere else, this is the strategic plan. We wanted people to have a deeper understanding of it, because with that understanding comes use of it. And you might take a piece of it and make it your own. And we wanted people to be comfortable with that, and to be then comfortable with the people who can support the pieces of that. We wanted to help support teacher retention. Teacher retention is an issue, it's an issue provincially, nationally, probably even globally in some areas, that it's people aren't staying like I did. You start at 22 and you're still here, and people are leaving for a variety of reasons. And we sort of wanted to help that teacher retention, both big picture in the profession, and then smaller, more intimate picture in the district. So once you get here, please stay here. And if it's the right fit for you, and if this profession is the right fit, you know what, get through that hump and continue on, because it will get better. We want to provide guidance and support. We wanted to help people before they were putting their hand up in the ocean for the third time and going down. We wanted, nobody should have to wait until that point to seek out or gain or access support, that the support should be there, almost waiting just in case you needed it. So the format was that we, and when I say we, I mean the ILT, participated in onboarding in August, when all the new teachers get together. And our goal for that was to start to introduce ourselves, so that, to put a face with a name, because they all had my name. They all knew that if you have any questions, if you need any help, you should contact Katrina Doherty. And so to put a face with that name, we had 5 days of release planned with the ILT to cover components of the ed plan, and sort of like the needs to know of teaching, where would you find the field trip policy, and what page is actually the most important page to read. We wanted also, in addition to our format, was for them to have access to the ILT and the IST with specific questions and needs, so that they would then, if they came to me, I didn't necessarily have all the answers or expertise or knowledge, but I can connect you to the next person who will do a better job than I will. And maybe it will be me, who knows, right? But we wanted to have that, the format had to be open and flexible, so that whatever needs arose could be met by the person most appropriate to help support them. We had successes, I would say, huge successes. The ILT, I have to say, the ILT is amazing. They jumped on board and were willing to plan these robust, amazing days. And then at the last minute, nope, it's on Zoom. And okay, I can change this and I can move that and I can create this. And then, okay, no, it's actually back in person, but all of these things. And so they're so willing to share their knowledge and their enthusiasm and their passion for teaching and for teaching in SD48. And that can't be counterbalanced with anything, because that's infectious. That feels right. And the fact that it's different people with different voices and different experiences, and all feeling sort of like everybody's rowing the canoe, and everybody is facing the right way in the canoe as well, so that we're rowing together. Dave Duncan is a success story for, I think, the mentorship. He hired such beautiful people who came with questions that were so not only vulnerable, but so intuitive, like such good questions, such thoughtful questions, such questions of themselves, like, am I doing enough? Am I doing it right? Can you just double check to make sure I've written my report cards right? Because I don't want to do this wrong. I feel good, but I just, and so Dave Duncan, who has does a remarkable job, and also then helps us create these days and these works, and things haven't been easy. And so he gets my golden star, I have to tell you. The people involved in the program have expressed their gratitude for that opportunity. So that's a success. People have told stories from how past experience this has differed, and that they were left on their own to sort things out and to create their own connections and their own support network. And so they expressed their gratitude for our work, and the support they were receiving and the honesty that they were met with. So I count as a success. The onboarding day was really, really successful. I think that it was exhausting. I think that everybody who went there sort of felt, that there was a wraparound. Literally there was a circle because as ILT, what we want to do is, even when we're working with adults, we model good best practice. So we introduce circle and introduce the greetings and the protocols from the nations. And I thought that the onboarding day was really successful, although there was a couple of things I would change, because that's good practice, right? And there's the opportunity for the teachers that we've invited to come and teachers that we've connected or hooked these people up with to model best practices. And that, I think, is such a success and such an excitement, because what better way as a teacher to solidify your own practice than by teaching others, and to share your own passion and to really actually express and develop that and develop your confidence. So I would say that was a challenge, that was a success as well. And there were challenges, because if we're going to be honest and we're going to be fair, we have to flip both sides of that coin. There was challenges. There was gas shortages and people shortages and bandwidth shortages, and we still haven't learned how to unmute ourselves shortages. And those were challenging, and they were frustrating, and they were disheartening. And they didn't last. We picked up our socks and we moved again. But we have to recognize that those were challenges to this, because those challenges play a part in going forward. The challenges were in creating the social opportunities that we wanted to, because of the situation that we found ourselves in, so that it was difficult to socially meet when there was limited sizes, and to be respectful of people's comfort, and not even just comfort, but their necessity of what they needed to do themselves within this pandemic situation. So that, I would say, is a place that I fell short, and a place that I would rethink and prioritize, because I still think it's important. A challenge was people who switched. Like, all of a sudden we thought, okay, we know everybody who's a new teacher. And then if you were a TOC and somebody went off on maternity, and now you're a teacher, but you're still on this list, now you need to be on this list. And I was teaching here and I'm teaching there, and keeping track of, like, this is another thing about Dave Duncan, to keep track of where all these people are every day and who's doing what job. It's like one of those puzzles where all the pieces are white, and you actually, all the shapes are the same. It's like, how do you do this, Dave? I don't know. Another challenge is, because my intention was to include the TOCs, and I didn't think that one through before I declared that intention, because I think it's really important for the TOCs to have the same, because what's going to happen is they were hired in 2021. So when we're making the 2022 list of new teachers, they're not a new hire. And yet they haven't had the depth of that experience and the shared learnings that we've all had. So my thought, because I thought, oh, this is going to be a problem, and that I would include the TOCs. Of course, not really realizing that we need the TOCs to do the days. So I'm gonna, but I have a plan for that. That I'm happy to share with whoever's doing this job going forward, right? And those were the challenges. And so we haven't completed, I'm looking at this as a spiral of inquiry, this inquiry model of mentorship of new teachers. And not that we haven't mentored new teachers, but this is the formalization of it. This is the purposefulness of it. And so I have to say that even though we haven't completed the cycle, I'm already jumped into the next cycle, because, I'm scattered. And so when we think about the cycle and the scanning, so we've already been scanning all the way through this, and what will be our focus and our hunch, and what is our action? What would we have done differently? How would we, so here's what I'd do differently. I would check in a different way. I would create more social opportunities. I think I would create smaller cohorts. If I was to do this, I would create smaller cohorts rather than looking at a big cohort. And I would look at ways to have those cohorts self-chosen. And maybe that they would be fluid. And I wonder if that would ease some of this difficulty of the manpower issue. That people could then develop the relationships from those smaller cohorts. I wonder about that. I would, another action is I would create learning opportunities outside of large whole day meetings. I think that that's literally the writing on the wall, and that doesn't take a genius to have scanned and thought of that. And I would consider the role of coordinator. I wonder if the role of coordinator shouldn't be a more regular scheduled interface in classrooms. And then I wonder about how and who and what format and how would that work. And I think back to the first years that I taught, and I shared a classroom with a senior teacher who knew that she needed a bit of a break. So I arrived every day at 11:30, and because of Helen Phillips, I learned how to load kids on a school bus. I learned how to take a field trip. I learned the importance of cleaning up throughout the day. I learned how to speak to parents and how to communicate. I learned how to track things. I learned how to be gracious. I learned how to apologize without feeling. I learned how to be vulnerable. And because I was in this mentoring role, like I was mentored by an experienced teacher. I was lucky. So in closing, I have to tell you that I'm heartened by the openness to mentorship that has been displayed by making this role and making this a priority. And I am encouraged that the district saw it as a need and a priority, because if we don't take care of our people, and I am thrilled to see such a high level of willingness of professionals to share and help. And I'm so curious how we make it better. I'm driven by that curiosity on how to make it better. Thank you for letting me ramble. Thank you for listening to me, and thank you for affording me every opportunity that I've been given in this district, because they're vast and I appreciate them.
Thank you very much. It's exciting.
Someone here has that.
My speaker is off.
Mine is-
Yours is fixed. It's fixed now.
You know what? Might have been me.
They said it was fine.
I could have just quietly turned off my speaker and not said that. I just wanted recorded that I was honest.
If I
Yes,
said it was me, it
sorry,
must
sorry,
have been me.
Katrina, we were getting some feedback here, says, we're not sure which one of these two are here left or Yahoos.
Yeah, now,
But thank you so much. It's a very exciting program that's being offered, and I think we can just do nothing but benefit from it. And the new teachers, it's always share the knowledge and experience that others have in the district or just in their careers. So, did anyone have any questions or comments for Katrina? Paul?
I do, yeah. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to Katrina, because she has been the heart and soul of this, as you've just seen. It is such a pleasure to work with Katrina. Her skill, her passion, her sense of humor, her caring for what she does is incredible. And we are so fortunate to have her. And I just want to, in the presence of the board, acknowledge that. This was the first year that we did this, and Katrina talks about improvement and challenges, and yes, that's true. We did have challenges, and we were constantly talking about how to do things differently. But given what we've had to contend with this year, with as she listed, the fuel shortages and the pandemic and all of it, we have accomplished a lot, and that's because of the work of Katrina and the team. And so thank you for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Ms. Paul, Rick?
Yeah, hi Katrina.
Hi, Rick.
Everything you said resonated with me, but close to the beginning of your remarks, you talked about the ed plan and about working with the mentored teachers and the new teachers and using the ed plan as kind of a structure or a foundation for that work. And it just made me reflect that it wasn't very long ago, at least in my years, I'm going to call it the year 2BL, which means 2 years before Lisa, that we actually had a presentation that Paul was a part of by the principals on the need for the district to actually have an education plan. And at that time, as a trustee and as at that point a recently former principal, I didn't even know what an ed plan was, a district ed plan. And so the power of us having this ed plan and its ability to support people in the way that Katrina has described with our new teachers, and probably not just our new teachers, is really great. So it's kudos to you for using that ed plan in the way it was intended, or one of the many ways it was intended. And a compliment to Paul for his insights that like 15 or 17 years ago or something, and bringing that whole idea to the board, because it was quite revolutionary at the time, and a whole bunch of eyes popped open at that whole notion. Thanks for your work, Katrina. Lovely to see you again.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Is there anyone else? Ian?
Yeah, I too want to thank Katrina. I've worked with Katrina for a lot of years, way back when, and she was an outstanding mentor then, and has continued to be. And it's great to hear about the program, Katrina. Well done.
She learned most of what she knows from her two favorite principals.
It
Yeah,
sounds
Alec,
like this is just,
was that Alec and Evelyn?
it sounds like this is just formalizing something you've already been doing, Katrina. So thank you.
Yeah, that's true.
Chris?
Yeah, so on that remark, again, I feel I can't be placed down either, so I'll just echo what everybody said. But one thing that struck me that I think is really important to state, to value, especially in this time of coming out of COVID, and a few of us were at a conference recently, and Monique Grace Smith spoke and did a beautiful job, and spoke about the recognition that we're actually all in recovery, coming out of COVID, and the importance of caring for people. And I think I don't want to stress that enough. That's really important to me, that notion of compassion systems leadership. And I will just unequivocally say that in addition to, Katrina, your incredible wisdom, knowledge, and skills, is you are that compassionate systems leader. You believe in people and in the importance of supporting people, for where they're at and wrapping around them when they need support. And I think it's just beautiful to hear you speak, and that caring comes across. It's a caring that we don't just extend to kids, but that we extend to the people with whom we work and have the honor of supporting. So I just want to thank you very much for that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I feel like I've either just been to my retirement party or my funeral.
Yeah.
And I'll take it.
Neither is allowed, Katrina.
Now listening.
You want to at least make sure to get those two events in the right order.
So thank you. I'm going to leave you for tonight if there's nothing else.
Yeah, I think we're good. Thanks for taking
Okay.
the time.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay, so that brings us to trustee items. I don't know if there are any. Okay, seeing none, then we'll move on to board committees. So committee of the whole, we met earlier today. It was fairly brief. It was mostly regarding our calendar and some upcoming events that we have. A few to point out anyway is the BCSTA AGM is coming up next week, and I think the 4 trustees in this room will be in attendance. There will be motions to consider and a board to elect. So it should be a busy few days for us. And then we have an ed session coming up on the 27th, I think it is. And that's regarding truth and reconciliation. So I'm excited to attend, albeit virtually, but to learn more about it. I have been participating with another group, the committee I'm on, in respect to truth and reconciliation. And I think you'll see some stuff coming out of AGM as well that will shed some light on it. And then we talked about the exciting retirement dinner that we haven't been able to hold for a few years. So that'll be happening on May the 5th, I think. And in Squamish, so it'd be wonderful to acknowledge and recognize those who have retired from the district. We also set up the grad ceremonies for who will be attending and speaking in our 3 high schools. Plus, there's an Indigenous grad ceremony hosted by Squamish Nation at Totem Home as well. I think that's about it. Did I miss anything? It was all calendar related. Yeah. So with that being said, there are a set of minutes here to be accepted. Care to do that?
Recommend that the minutes of the community of the whole meeting held on March 9th, 2022 be accepted.
Thank you, Ian. Second? Thanks, Cynthia. All in favor? And carried. So then that brings us to our policy committee. Anything to report on that?
I can report on that.
Yeah.
So at policy today, we continued our review and refinement of the 200 series of policies, which is the set of policies which governs board activities and board conduct, and specifically policy 204 trustee code of conduct sanctions was discussed, further refined. Policy 207 formulation of policy and regulation, same thing. We went on to review the most recent changes to policy 208 standing committee on board policy, the policy on policies. And finally, policy 209 standing committee on finance. A few minor changes were made there, and that concluded the policy meeting.
And the recommendation?
That the minutes of the policy committee held on March 9th, 2022 be accepted.
Second.
Cynthia, thanks, Ian. All in favor? And carried. And thanks for the report. We have nothing to report on finance. I don't think. No. Indigenous Education Council. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend the meeting, and Rachel was there, but she isn't here tonight. So I think we'll just wait for her report at our next meeting. Public Relations Committee, nothing there. Nothing. Early Learning Committee. Also no. Okay.
Madam Chair, did you want to did you want to accept the minutes from the Indigenous Education Council, even though we don't have the report?
Yes.
In that case, I'll make that motion that the minutes of the Indigenous Education Council meeting held on January 14th, 2022 be accepted.
Thank you. All in favor?
Turn vote is fair play.
Second. All in favor? There we go. Caught me.
I know, and I'm relishing it.
Yeah, I know you are. We're just waiting for that. Okay, so we have our number 8 now, general. Doesn't look like we have any business arising. So that brings us to information items. Calendar update, Paul?
Yeah, thank you. So at our last board meeting, you'll recall that the board approved a motion to recognize September 30th as National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. So since that time, I think you are all aware, districts have been asked to do some additional work on that. So we kind of went back to the calendars, and now the calendars have all been updated with the additional instructional time that was necessary. They're now out for public feedback and they will be brought back to the board in May for approval. So I just wanted to give an update because it could be confusing to the public, given that we made that motion last month and then we're going through another separate process. So that's just to clarify what happened. We didn't have all the information last time, so we thought we would be proactive and put that forward. But I guess we just did it a little too quickly. We were too ahead of ourselves. So the other related piece to this, though, is just a reminder that actually next year, the 2022-23 school year, will be our school calendar building year for the following 3 school years. So as the board recalls, this happens every 3 years. We go through a public consultation process in the fall, through meetings and surveys and things like that. And then we put together a draft calendar shortly after the winter break. And then that draft calendar goes out for public, again, feedback, and then it comes back to the board somewhere around March. So that's just a sort of an update that will be happening again next year. And that is it.
Great. That's all. Anybody have any questions for him? Okay, seeing none, then we can move on to Britannia Beach Ministry of Transportation signage. Chris and Ian, your names are beside that. I'm not sure who's taking that.
I'm gonna pass it over to Ian.
Sure, so there was a request, or I think it was information that came from the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure to install some signage on our school bus stops in Britannia. So what we're looking at as staff is we have existing stops in Britannia currently. We want to make sure that before the signage is actually installed, that those stops make sense. I think there was a request for a 3rd stop in Britannia. We do have 3 stops in Britannia currently. However, the stop near the museum doesn't have any students that show up that stop. So it does appear from a community perspective that there's only 2 stops in Britannia. There was a request to install a stop at the museum site, and we have one there. So it's just not in use currently. But if we are going to go forward with signage, it would be installed as recommended. Right now, Paul Eltz, our transportation manager, is speaking with the drivers and is reaching out to the community to identify and locate the stops that make the most sense. And I think the stop that is identified or located at the museum site is on inbound, so up the hill to pick up kids, where when we did have students there, they would wait for the bus to come down the hill rather than get on to go up the hill. And it created a bit of a crossing the street scenario, not the safest thing to do. And it was really hard to discourage the students from doing that. So we're looking at, I think that with the new development there may be a way that we can pull the bus out. And so before that stop sign gets located, we want to make sure that we can access that pull out or parking area to get the bus off the street, and then it's a lot safer to pick up the kids. But it is something that we're working on, and we should get them installed fairly shortly.
Thank you. Any questions? Comments? Chris?
Just a comment, I also wanted to just give a thank you to Trustee Bickford, who also brought that to our attention, and we were able to rally troops and get all the information that we needed. So thank you, Celeste.
Yeah, thank you for your work on this. It's really important. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And Chris. So I guess I don't see any other questions today. So it brings us to the CMOS lands. Signed letter of intent to do anything to add to that.
I don't have anything really to add.
Okay.
I'm just very excited about working together with the locations.
Ian, nothing to add?
No, it's
Rick?
What are next steps on that process?
So we are meeting with them monthly. And there's I think a whole bunch of things that have to be done. So one of the things, well, maybe you can speak to.
Sure.
a bit about what.
Yeah, so a lot of the nuts and bolts from our perspective, from that school district's perspective, has been done. So a lot of, the things that could have held up the eventual transfer has been done in our district. So we have a big piece of that was approved. It was ministerial approval from 2010 to go ahead and dispose of lands. We refreshed all of those authorizations from the ministry of current minister's signature as well as current secretary treasurer's signature on those documents, so that if or when the transfer occurs, we can send that wet signature document to land title. So
Right.
that we meet all the requirements with respect to that. So one of the questions that came up at our last meeting with all the stakeholders was, okay, so assuming that we had all of our ducks in a row and everything was ready to go, when would the school district be in a position to turn the lands over? And theoretically, in that meeting, I said, well, if we had it all done today, we could turn it over theoretically tomorrow, from
Right.
our perspective.
Sure.
But there's a lot of pieces that still have to be done with the Ministry of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation. There's pieces that are for, I'm gonna get the acronym wrong, but forest lands,
Okay.
that acronym about this big.
Literal?
Exactly,
Right.
yes. And so there's a piece there that involves the transfer or the assignment of the leased piece of property. So we have some information from the Ministry of Education. I did, just to back up a bit, I spoke with our contact, Travis Kamala, who was taken over for John Rosichin, which some of you may remember. He was like the guy that knew everything that went on in school districts in the province. The information I got from him was the piece that makes the most sense with the least section was to just relinquish our interest in it. That may not work out the best for little one for taking it over. So we may assign that lease. So that would mean then that the school district would have some stake in that crown lease section that we would be in a sublet, if you want to call it that. It would
Yeah.
be something greater than that, but where we would be assigning, we still have an interest in the property, but we assign the use for a third party or another party. And that's kind of where we are with it,
Okay.
with a snapshot.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, none, then I guess that's it. So attachments, we've got a media reports and field trips. No correspondence, no items for discussion. So that brings us to our policy motions. Danielle, Chris, want you to speak to it? Your names are beside there,
Oh, well, you know what I'll just say again, and I don't know if I said it in public before. I did at the policy meeting, but just for the sake of the evening, again, I just want to thank the board for the continued, engagement. This is really important work for trustees and future trustees. And I really enjoyed the conversation and the thoughtful suggestions for revisions. And it's a real pleasure for me and something I look forward to, because I think we're just working really well as a board together. So just my gratitude for that. Thank you.
awesome, thanks. So we have a motion there.
That the board approves policies 207, formulation of policy, and 209, standing committee on finance as presented. Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? And carried. Just an afterthought on that, there was, you were gonna clean up some language in 209. That'll just
Right,
happen.
so yeah, so there's just for the sake of the public too, so there'll be times when we will pass, or the board will pass a policy, and there's some housekeeping language that the board,
Doesn't change the
provides.
intent of the
Doesn't- Not
policy,
at all,
but-
no, it's just some word changes.
Yeah,
To make
okay.
it clear. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, so that brings us, we have no action items, no items to be brought out of camera. We have a lengthy bylaw. Who's up for the challenge?
Vicky.
Oh, okay. You've been nominated.
All right. Are you ready? Deep breath. That the Board of Education unanimously agreed to waive the requirement that the first, second, and third reading of School District number 48, Sea to Sky Capital Bylaw number 2022/23 CPSD 48-01 be given on different dates.
Thanks, Rick. Second to that?
Awesome.
Thanks, Ian. All in favor? Gary, who's doing the next one?
Okay, I got it.
You're not gonna appoint Ian?
No. He's taking the higher entirely. That the Board of Education give first, second, and third reading to School District number 48, Sea to Sky Capital Bylaw number 2022/23 CPSD 48-01 as follows. Whereas in accordance with section 142 of the School Act, the Board of Education of School District number 48, Sea to Sky, hereinafter called the Board, has submitted a capital plan to the Minister of Education, hereinafter called the Minister, and the Minister has approved the capital plan or has approved a capital plan with modifications. Now, therefore, in accordance with section 143 of the School Act, the Board has prepared this capital bylaw and agrees to do the following. A, authorize the Secretary Treasurer to execute a capital project funding agreement or agreements related to the capital projects contemplated by the capital plan or the capital plan with modifications. B, upon ministerial approval to proceed, commence the capital project, proceed diligently, and use its best efforts to complete each capital project substantially as directed by the Minister. C, observe and comply with any order, regulation, and policy of the Minister as may be applicable to the Board or the capital project. And D, maintain proper books of account and other information and documents with respect to the affairs of the capital projects as may be prescribed by the Minister. Now, therefore, the Board enacts as follows. 1, capital bylaw of the Board for the 2022/23 capital plan as approved by the Minister to include the supported capital projects specified in the letter addressed to the Secretary Treasurer and Superintendent dated March 15th, 2022 is hereby adopted. And 2, this capital bylaw may be cited as School District number 48 Sea to Sky Capital Bylaw number 2022/23 CPSD 48-01, read the first time the 13th day of April 2022, read a second time the 13th day of April 2022, read a third time past the 13th day of April 2022.
Good job. So a seconder for that? Thank you, Ian. All in favor? And that's carried. Do we have any questions of clarification from the public? She's already nodding no.
Nope.
Okay, so no questions of clarification from the public. So I will declare that we have completed the business of this agenda and we are now adjourned at 6:50.